Howdy, everybody. And welcome back to, I can't remember, I think this very well might be session 10. It's either 9 or 10, hold on, I gotta say this, I'm pretty sure we're on session 10, and this one is gonna start off, whoo boy, if you were here last time, you already know what I'm getting at, but, we're starting this off with our main character burning to death. We're gonna see how that goes. Things took a massive turn for the worse last time. I think it is indeed. Hold on, I just got to see this real quick. Forgot to look into it beforehand. Let's see, how many videos have I made so far? Indeed, so this is session 10. We are starting off with the repercussions of having rolled double tens, which, if you're familiar with the system, it's a really bad time. It's the worst the things can possibly get. We had our worst possible version of a critical failure that this game can represent. Things went really bad. We're currently on fire. I usually start off with a lot of kind of warm up and talking about how the game works and everything. I don't want to do that. In fact, I generally want to start angling a little bit more towards just getting right into the mix of it and letting you guys just kind of ask any questions you might have along the way if you're confused about how some of the rules work. But we're just going to dive right in and start making some rolls, particularly this session. Hold on, one more thing real quick. I've got some audio stuff I need to just plug in a little bit more firmly on my end. 1 second. There we go. Much better. Had just a little bit of a loose cable. So let's move into our in-game view right away. One more time, if you want to follow along at home and have a little bit more of an idea of like what the hell's going on here, what all these numbers and mechanics mean, what is this sheet trying to tell us, the rules are freely available at ironswornrpg.com. It's a pay-what-you-want thing, so if you want to support after the fact, I heartily encourage you to do so. I've had a lot of enjoyment out of this game. But let's get started. So I mentioned we are starting off burning to death. You might see in my vows section down below, we've got the no matter what happens, this church burns that we're making progress on. And that went a little bit more on the side of no matter what happens and a little bit less on the side of this church burns. So it's a lot more weighted on the first clause than the second clause. And so yeah, as a result, let's make this very important roll. Now, in this game, death is not necessarily the end, and I've done a little bit of thinking ahead of time in case I indeed die from this roll about what that's going to look like. I don't usually plan a lot in advance, and I still haven't planned a lot, but that was one thing that I had to at least be a little bit prepared on, like, okay, if I die, what's going to happen? I don't want to just, make one roll and be like, great, well that was a fun 2-hour stream, I'm dead, and bye everybody. So, when you face death, when you are brought to the brink of death, I'm reading from the Face Death move right now, when you are brought to the brink of death and glimpse the world beyond. So, Coyote right now, for a reminder on why he's burning to death, he had been up on a pyre on a bit of his own making. He got in a lot of trouble with the church about trying to steal their book, and when he had a chance to kind of answer for his crimes during his trial, he opted to, for all sorts of reasons that if you want the full, kind of details on, be sure to watch last session. For all kinds of reasons, he decided to opt for, no, I'm going to just admit to everything, make myself seem as bad as possible so that they make this fire enormous, because this church is going to burn down. He vowed to do it. No matter what happens, this church burns. It is a defining, moving forward thing of his character. So he's up on this pyre of his own creation. It's enormous. It's like we described it last time as I think like 10 feet long, 5 feet wide, and up a few feet, something like that, like enormous pyre. But he had an escape plan, and he did indeed, like he's out of his manacles up there, and he was ready. He had the church rigged to burn. But when it came down to it, the moment where he needed to lob his kind of torch, basically, that he had made in through the window, utterly failed. And we ruled that managed to basically get himself too soaked and like he's lit ablaze, just caught in this fire. He's also, as we ruled last time, terrified of fire, so that probably did not help. So anyway, as a result of all this, him burning up there on the pyre, the whole town is watching us. We are brought to the brink of death and are glimpsing the world beyond. And so I need to roll heart. So basically, if I don't get a strong hit on this, which is all just going to be in the hands of the dice. There's nothing I can do to manipulate it. I'm going to die. Here are the options before the roll happens. On a strong hit, death rejects you. You are cast back into the mortal world. Basically, somehow against all odds, I will make it out of this alive. I'll find a way to get myself off fire and escape at least this current thing that's making me face death. Doesn't mean something else won't kill me, but the fire will not. I'll find a way out of this situation, stop, drop, and roll, or whatever. So that's on a strong hit. And admittedly, hard is a good stat for me, so I've got decent odds. However, as soon as I get even a weak hit, I gotta choose one. Either I die, but not before making a noble sacrifice. Envision your final moments. So I could do that. The noble sacrifice could definitely be not so much noble as just using it to burn down the church. That could be my final moment. Or the one that I'd be more likely to choose. Because I don't want to just end it right there. Death desires something of you in exchange for your life. Envision what it wants, ask the oracle, if unsure, and swear an iron vow, formidable or extreme. So it's got to be a very long-term kind of iron vow. Or refuse the quest, you're dead. So basically, I will have an encounter with death, we'll find out what death wants, and I'll have to swear an iron vow, or say, no, that's too much, and we're going to accept our death. Otherwise, you return to... So if I accept his quest, or its quest, otherwise you return to the mortal world and are now cursed. You may only clear the cursed ability by completing the quest. So, I've got my death marks me, I'm cursed forever until I fulfill this long-term quest. More long-term than anything else we've done this game, and we've barely fulfilled any quests. And if I just miss this roll, I'm dead, and there's nothing I can do about it. Which would really suck. I've got decent odds, so mechanically speaking, for the quick breakdown, we're going to roll a six-sided die. We're going to add my heart to it, so we're going to add 3. And if that is not greater than either of the other dice that I'm making, then I'm just dead. So here we go. If that happens, I don't know what the stream is going to be. I'm going to have to figure that out on the fly. It very well might turn into something very different. But let's see. So I'm making a heart roll. What happens? Well, that is not expected. So, not only a strong hit. So we went from the worst situation of what happens with doubles. So in this game, when you roll doubles on those 10-sided dice, you can see they're both 4s. When you roll doubles, it is a critical. Either a critical hit or a critical fail. I succeeded, so it's a critical hit. We went from the worst thing that can happen, double 10s, just absolute abysmal failure, to, as you see down below, opportunity. So not only am I not going to burn to death, I will survive this fire and somehow turn it into an opportunity. The one that speaks to mind immediately, if this is a critical success, is I feel like what's going to happen... Man, Coyote Devereaux never has that kind of luck. He's going to... Okay, so he's already free. He's burning to death, and in his panic, he's running. I mean, he's panicked not only for being on fire, but also he's just afraid of fire to begin with. He has a phobia. He runs off this pyre while everybody is just surprised to see him lit ablaze. Nobody knows what to do. He has this opportunity. He's a quick guy. Manages to run through the crowd. And I think just dives into the church. And indeed, it starts the fire. He'd already had it rigged to kind of catch more quickly. He manages to run in and catch this place ablaze. I think he is still on fire at the moment. He'll have to, and he's in a place that's going to quickly be quite the inferno itself. But in his panic, he is indeed going to hit that, getting the church to burn. I'm not going to give him the milestone yet, though, because it still needs to get a little bit more, it needs to burn down, I think. But okay, God, I'd done all this preparation to think about, okay, if he faces death, what does death look like in this world? What would death want? How am I going to deal with that? No, not only a success, but a critical. So yeah, Coyote Devereaux, he's in the church. He's got it starting to rig, and people are reacting to this. Number one thing he's got to do, he's on fire right now. That's still very much a problem. So he needs to do a face danger roll and get him, do the stop, drop, and roll. Get it so that the church is on fire, but not him. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go from face death to face danger. God, I was very much not expecting that to happen. I thought for sure it would be weak hit. And then in the moments before, I thought it was going to be just entirely a miss. And I'm like, shit, what do I do this session? So yes, face danger. When you attempt something risky or react to an imminent threat, envision your action and roll. So what are we doing here? How would we put out a fire? Well, I know that in reality, if we're stop, dropping, and rolling, that sounds like with speed, agility, or precision, like just having the wherewithal to roll around and get it off. It's not. I'm gonna need some help on this. It's definitely not deception, stealth, or trickery. That's not at all this. We're not rolling shadow. I could see the argument for expertise, insight, or observation, like just knowing how to put out a fire, which would suck because his wits are terrible. But I can understand the argument for that. Aggressive action, forceful defense, strength, or endurance. Kind of, but not really. It's not that he needs to be so strong that he can like make himself roll appropriately to douse this fire. I don't see a good argument for iron. Definitely not charm, loyalty, or, well, courage, I guess, but that doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't see heart. I think it's got to be either edge or wits. Obviously, mechanically, I have an incentive towards edge versus wits. I would like this to... I'm going to indeed press that and be like, I think there's an argument for the agility and precision. Like, it's about being able to do that well enough. We'll assume Coyote knows how to put out a fire. It's just about the physicality of actually doing it appropriately. So we're going to make an edge roll on a face danger. And see if he can put out this fire appropriately. And then he'll be able to deal with all sorts of other stuff. Because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people who are not very happy with the church being on fire and want to do something about it. So here we go. Oh my god. If you've been watching this series, when is the last time we've ever seen Coyote get two, like, full-on green things in a row? A strong hit. My god, he can find success. When the chips are down. Okay, so face danger, strong hit. You're successful, take +1 momentum. So not only has he managed to put out this fire, he's building up towards this momentum. He's gonna... Okay, so the way I envision this, so like he does this rolling around. I think even the rolling is probably partly what sets this building on fire to begin with. He like rolls through the things he had set up. The fire is starting to spread. He kind of like gets it off himself and onto other things. And with the gaining of that momentum, I think I see that as like even though mechanically it doesn't do anything, he like rolls into like grabbing a new thing that's got like a little bit of fire on it. He's ready to bring this fire to other parts of the building, but you know, being able to do it with a torch and not just like his on fire body. It's a way better way to set a church ablaze. There's going to be a lot of face dangers in this, I think, because the next real problem that's going to be happening is I want to wrap this all up in one kind of roll. I don't want to explore all the granularity of like, and then he sets this room on fire, and then he sets this room on fire. I just want to basically have this all lumped up into one big, like, setting the place on fire, room by, like, getting all the hot spots so that it'll happen appropriately, and avoiding the people who are gonna try and stop him from doing this, basically. And I do think we can wrap that up into one roll, and based on how this roll goes, we can decide like what specifically went wrong or didn't. I don't know, because they were definitely not like gathering information or anything like that. Oh, you know what? It would be nice to do though. Can I think of a way to secure an advantage real quick? Oh, yes, I definitely have a way to secure an advantage. Okay, so all those people are going to want to rush in and stop him from setting this place on fire, right? I could secure an advantage if I can bar the doors, keep them out. Make it take longer before they can get in. Then I'll have an easier time spreading the fire all around. So, again, that kind of sounds like a speed thing. Like, am I quick enough to bar the doors before anybody busts through? Can I find, like, it would again be speed or wits, or edge or wits. Because it could also be like, do I find the thing to bar the door? But I don't think this is like a barren place. He could find something. So, yeah, it's more a fact, like, is he fast enough to bar the door without doing... I think the danger is if he fails to do this, then there's more of the implication that they're going to be hot on his heels. So yeah, let's do a secure and advantage roll first. So this is when you assess a situation, make preparations, or attempt to gain leverage. Envision your action and roll. So yeah, I'm arguing for the speed aspect. We're going to do another edge roll here. See if I can secure this advantage. Ooh, do not like that 10 there. But we do still have a weak hit, which is not too bad on secure and advantage. Secure and advantage means the advantage is short-lived, so we take one more momentum and nothing else happens. Still good. We're still building up towards having this nice full momentum meter. It's more likely to be able to help us that way. And so the way I envision that is he bars the doors, but like it's not anything that's that strong. They're going to bust through and splinter whatever I've got to, like, that, and, like, there's fire really nearby, which is going to weaken whatever's barring the doors, so, like, it's not going to hold them for long, but it buys me a moment to get a little bit more ground between the two of us and set this place ablaze. So, that one final face danger roll I was talking about, which will kind of wrap up this, this vow, almost certainly. So I run about with this torch in my hand, and I'm just, like, finding all of my hotspots that I set up. Like, okay, in this place and this place. Like, how have I set up this place for the arson that's about to happen? Can I light them all before somebody stops me? And that definitely, if it's all about before somebody stops me, very much sounds like a speed thing. So one more roll with a plus edge, and we can wrap up this scene, probably. Unless it goes badly. And cue the it goes badly. Okay. We have a weak hit, and I can't quite kill it with momentum, which is fine. So weak hit. You succeed, but face a troublesome cost. Choose one. You're delayed. Alright, so, right. It's the one where I'm going to lose something from one of my meters. So you can see we got all these meters around. We got the momentum meter, health, spirit, and supply. So it's going to cost me something from one of those meters, whichever one makes the most sense to me, really. Now, mechanically, I'd love it to just be the momentum meter, because that's not too bad. I do it slowly, it's kind of awkward, and I fumble through. I can afford to lose some momentum. Health, I really don't want to do that. I mean, I can envision how that would happen. Like, the place is really hot. I set it ablaze, but I have to stay in long enough that, man, it kind of does make the most sense, though. It's either that, or I could lose spirit because I'm indeed afraid of all this fire. Like, I'm utterly terrified at what I have to do. To stay in this kind of inferno really costs me my spirit. I could see that. Supply is kind of stupid. Sure, I could drop something along the way, or I could lose aspects of my... I don't really like that one so much for this. I kind of do like the losing the spirit, though. I'm exploring more this idea that he's trapped himself in this place and he's utterly terrified. Especially because he's barred himself in here. So it could be interesting to make him have to escape as well. Oh, that could be... Yeah, okay, so that's what we're going to do. So his spirit is going to go down. We're going to have to endure stress real quick, because this place is getting rather lit up. He's being a little bit too successful a little too quickly at burning this church down. And that's hard enough even if you don't have a fire phobia. It'll develop a fire phobia. If you already have one, oof. Would not want to be in his shoes. So when you face mental shock or despair, he's realizing that he's gone out of the frying pan and into the fire a little bit too literally. So suffer minus spirit equal to your foe. Yeah, we've done that. We've suffered the minus spirit. Then we got to roll spirit or heart, whichever is higher. Definitely heart. And let's see how does he deal with this. Okay. Roll that heart. Will I be able to roll with the punches? Now, this is one of the reasons why I like having a high heart. I can kind of deal with being in a bad situation a little bit better. I know how to keep on keeping on. At least stress-wise. Let's see. Okay, we get a weak hit on it. And again, not enough momentum to actually make a difference on it. If you're curious and are not already familiar, basically, I could kill momentum to cancel out numbers that are lower than it. But as you can, since 5 isn't higher than the problematic die there, it's not helping me. So we have a weak hit on endure stress, which means we press on. Okay, just we don't get any of the good things. Had we done better, we might have been able to kind of roll with it a little bit more and gain some stuff back. Weak hit is just like, yeah, no, you're stressed out. It sucks. But that's all we have to deal with. Is a mechanic that I was not doing appropriately for the longest time. There is one thing that I have to do, though. I'm pretty sure that we're going to have to mark this shaken condition because our spirit is indeed at 0. Actually, I guess I guess that happens on a miss and does not necessarily, yeah, never mind. That would happen on a miss, but we're not. Right, it's supply where it immediately happens. Anyway, I'll stop talking mechanics and get back into the fiction. So we're all good, except Coyote. He's doing some heavy breathing in a very smoky environment. He's coughing it out, having quite the anxiety attack, recognizing, like, wait a minute, there's a reason why this is a really bad idea. I've trapped myself in I just escaped being on fire, and I'm putting myself in an even bigger fire. How does this work? Asked Drimkos. Okay, cool. Yeah, if you want to know a little bit more about the mechanics, I can take a moment to explain how this works. So this is a game called Ironsworn. If you want the full rules, it is completely free at ironswornrpg.com if you want to follow along. But I'll give you the quick breakdown. Right around here, all these numbers on the top, those are my core stats. They never change. They will never get any higher or lower. This is just, my character is defined as being these numbers. Going from left to right, we have our edge, which is how dexterous, nimble, quick, that sort of thing. It's like D&D in a sense, in that it is a tabletop role-playing game, but the actual moment-to-moment of how it will work will play out kind of differently. It is, if you're familiar with the term, it is a powered by the apocalypse game, which means it works off of the system that comes from the game Apocalypse World. It's a lot more of a kind of rules-light sort of game that works off of making moves in certain situations, but I'll go over that. So we have our edge, that's kind of our dexterous, quickness, stuff like that. Move along, we have heart, which is like, how much courage do you have? How much ability do you have to keep on when the chips are down, when things are looking grim? But also, how good are you dealing with people? Are you a convincing person? Can you get them to do what you want? How likable are you? It's a couple of things all wrapped into one. Iron, and if it's not obvious already, higher numbers are better. Iron, that's how tough are you physically? How well can you throw a punch? How well can you take a punch? That sort of thing. Shadow, how sneaky are you? Are you good at literally being unseen and being in the shadows? Are you good at lying to people and being deceitful? Are you good at just being, coming up with devious schemes? Which we're pretty good at. You can also see over at the side we've got Trickster, which makes us even better, but I'll get into that in a moment. Wits. Not very good at that. It's kind of what it sounds like. How aware are you of your environment? Are you good at noticing small details and making use of them? It's that sort of thing. So those are the core stats. As for how this game works, I'm going to make a dummy. Actually, I'll just refer to these rolls down below. So you can see down below my window, these are former rolls that we've made. So in this game, when the situation is appropriate, when things happen that fulfill one of the moves, for instance, we've been making a lot of face danger moves. It's a very broad strokes kind of thing. It can cover a lot of type of stuff, but face danger reads, when you attempt something risky or react to an imminent threat, envision your action and roll. And basically, depending on what kind of threat it is and what you're doing about it, it could take any one of those 5 stats. So is it about for instance, I'm running along a ledge and it's crumbling and I need to get to the end and jump off in time? That sounds like you're doing it with speed, agility, or precision, so you'd use your edge on that. And if I were facing danger by people are grilling me and let's see, I'm trying to think of a really good example for face danger for charm, for using your heart. Courage. Let's say that there's people that are being really intimidating to you, and you're trying to convince a whole crowd to go along with you and fight the good fight anyway, even though there are... How do you do it alone without a DM? I'll get into that in a moment. There's a lot of handy tools in this game to help make that as easy as possible. But anyway, I won't go over every example, but you assess the move, it'll give you instructions over what is relevant, what you roll, and then you roll the dice. And the way it works You might see, I'll do one more so you can see the actual dice. So we're going to make a pretend roll here. Yeah, one of them is a little bit off screen, but you can see we roll one 6-sided die, we roll two 10-sided dice. You can see down below that would have been a bad roll. That 6-sided die is what's known as our action die. This is the randomizer that lets us know how well did we do the thing. So you add your stat to it. In this case, I was pretending it was a heart roll. So I would add my heart of 3 to this 2. That's how we get the 5 over here. And then we compare it. We say, okay, is that 5 higher than 5? No, it's not. Is that 5 higher than 6? No, it's not. That's why this is a miss. I wasn't higher than either of the dice, so things go poorly for me. It's going to be a really bad time. Whatever that roll I was doing, it's the bad outcome of it. If it were high, if say this 5 were instead of 4, then we would have had what's called a weak hit, which is usually you get what you want, but there's a price to pay. And then if it's higher than both of them, if that had been like a 4 and a 3, we would have had a full-on, just a full success, a strong hit, that's what it's called. Where basically, things are really great, and usually here, have this bonus thing. It's even better than you planned on. So that's kind of the core mechanic of the game. There's a little bit that you can mess with momentum. These meters matter from time to time. You generally want to keep them a lot higher than they are right now. And then the real thrust of what you're doing in this game is actually this big section in the middle. You can see I've written out what are called vows. These are the defining things about your character. Far more defining than these numbers up here. That's how good I am at things. This is what makes me a character. Because these are the things that I've sworn on. In this game, there's a kind of magical potency to a mythological just being held to. When you hold a piece of iron and you make a vow while holding it, when you swear on iron to do something, there's something in the world at large that kind of binds your soul to doing it. And so you try and fulfill those vows. And so the game is all about swearing vows and fulfilling them and kind of what dangers and consequences you face along the way. That's the short version of it. I highly encourage you to check out the full rules. It's a really cool game. What makes it very playable as a solo person is not only are there all these moves that basically point you in directions and say, hey, you had a complication like this. This is the way the story goes. But if you're looking for inspiration, there's one final randomizer I have here. This randomizer is called an oracle. Now, I've got all sorts of different random generators that the game provides. I know you can't see the drop down every time I do it, but as you can see, I can come up with like what action somebody is taking, with what kind of goal a character might have, what kind of plot twist there might be, mystic backlashes. There's all sorts of cool stuff that help give you inspiration when it's not immediately obvious, like, oh, I don't know, what could a failure mean here? Or, I was trying to compel this person to do something and they want something in return. What does this character want? I don't know, I just invented them on the fly. So anyway, there's just a lot of tools like that make it very easy to just roll with the punches and come up with stuff. I'm going to get on with the story as it is right now, but you should know that from this moment, I have not a moment of this prepared. I knew where we were starting, but any assumptions I had about where this story was going, it's already gone away from them. So this is all just off the seat of my, just pulling it out of my ass. And the game, I couldn't do it without the help of this game. So, anyway, with that diversion out of the way, at least the core rules gone over. Right now, we're trying to fulfill this idea of no matter what happens, this church burns. There's a lot of backstory on why that's important to this character, but well, at least some backstory. We're in the middle of it. It is on fire right now, and he's currently freaking out because this guy has a phobia of fire. But he needs to escape. He already made an attempt to kind of bar the entrance, and I think we can hear in the other part of the church, somebody crashes through. We can hear they've splintered in. There's people that want to help put this church out. Coyote very wants to escape, and obviously he could go out that way, but there's going to be a lot of people in the way. Or he can try and find another way out of here. And unfortunately, he's neither good at like muscling his way through things, nor is he good at like having the wits to be like, ah, there's a window or something. I could get out that way. So he's in a bit of an awkward spot here. I could make him do it, and I think I want to try at least. I think with momentum as high as he's got right now, Coyote would like to try. He's gonna find like, yeah, there's some window or something, but he needs to. It's gonna take strength to get it open. He needs to be able to like climb up and get to the place he needs to be because the fire is spreading. He doesn't have a lot of opportunities here because very intentionally he was trying to spread the fire. It's a problem of his own making. So we're going to make an iron roll right now. This is another face danger roll. Now, this is one of his worst stats, so it's probably not going to go well. So I should consider if there's anything I can do to secure an advantage first. Boost my momentum meter a little bit higher, give me a little bit more of a shot at doing this. So what kind of way can I secure an advantage? Oh, and by the way, if this is your first time on this stream, a couple of things. One, all the previous sessions are on YouTube. There's a link down below if you're interested in how did we get to this place. They're all down on YouTube. But more importantly, this is very much a contributory stream. Like, if you have ideas, when I'm kind of musing to myself, like, what could we do about this? I very much am open to your suggestions. As mentioned, I haven't planned any of this. I'm always just, like, trying to figure stuff out, so any input you have is awesome. But if you can't think of anything, that's fine, too. So, yes, secure an advantage. What kind of preparations could he make? So, ideally, I want to find a way to angle this towards either speed or being a trickster. These are some of my better stats. I mean, if I could, heart. Actually, might be with courage. Okay, so how about this? I got it. So I can secure an advantage with courage because even though I'm terrified of this fire, man, let's say there's a door, there's an open door, but there's like a big blaze behind it that I would have to run through. And I could secure an advantage, and like, it's not like an open door, I'd still have to open it up. I think it would still be an iron roll when it's all done to like force this door open, and like bust through. But I think I could get myself an advantage by stealing myself through this panic attack, finding the courage within me to just like take that route out, and I could do it. Either that or have the courage to run through the other way where there's all the people. One way or another, let's get this advantage done with heart. So here we go. Here's our first actual real roll since we've talked about all of the mechanics of how this works. Okay, so we have a weak hit. That 10 was no friend of ours. We have no way to momentum it away. I'll explain momentum when it's actually relevant. But just take my word for it, we can't actually use our momentum meter on this. But a weak hit on secure an advantage is not all that bad. From what I recall, it means we just take +1 momentum. It's just, our advantage is short-lived. Like, the way I interpret this is, it takes us that moment. Hey, what's up, Average Genius? Welcome back. We take that moment to go, like, kind of take a deep breath, exhale, and be like, it's okay, we can do this. It's just a moment of fire, and then it's done. You've already had more. This is the way out. This is the safeness. We do that. Why, thank you. But in order to take that moment, we can hear the rumbling of the feet behind us. All the people who have just bust in to try and like stop me from setting this church ablaze, they're inside now, and they are hot on my heels, as is fire. But I think their primary goal right now would definitely be to put out this church. But anyway. We boost our momentum a little bit. Kabink. We're getting higher and higher. It is more and more likely to be able to help us. So now, we got to escape here, but there is the one thing. Because we're trying to fulfill this vow that the church will burn down. And I think if we escape, we'll certainly hit a milestone on it and be likely to fulfill it. But I'm worried that all these people, if they're left alone, they're going to do what they can to keep this church from burning down. Is Coyote more interested in escaping right now or stopping them from halting his stuff? Like, yeah, they could take away all of his progress. I think, given his phobia and everything, he is more interested in self-preservation. And welcome, Viro, as well. Let's hear your theme real quick. Sad, sad Chrono Trigger theme. Welcome back. If you've never been here on a Sunday, I ordinarily do music streams, so this is me on the cello you're hearing right now. I do hours and hours of cello requests. That'll be happening tomorrow. Anyway, welcome back. So yeah, one really quick. We're going to do this face danger roll. He's going to have to force his way through. There's this door. He knows it's a back way out. He can get out of here. It would not be a problem. If this goes poorly, then he's going to have to contend with all these other people. So let's make the roll. So we're doing, this is going to be an iron roll. We've worked up our meter a little bit. Let's see what happens. Hopefully we won't need to use it. And there it is, a miss. And indeed a 10 and a 7. Can't do anything about our momentum on that. It's gone poorly, as should be expected. I was rolling my worst stat, or one of the two worst stats. So let's take a look. What happens on face danger on a miss? It's not good. Welcome, Wooden Nickel as well. All sorts of people joining us tonight. So on a miss, you fail, or your progress is undermined by a dramatic and costly turn of events. Pay the price. So this is the situation where the game tells us to do this. We go, okay, what kind of pay the price makes sense? Pay the price means you choose one of a few things. You can either go with the most obvious thing. In this case, it makes sense to be like, I'm muscling my way against this door and I can't make it out. And the people catch up with me. That sort of thing would make the most amount of sense. But for instance, hey.
Joined the Jester's Court.
Welcome back. Thank you for your continued support of our channel. 8 months in a row. My good graces towards you. Thanks so much, Viro. You're well familiar with the benefits you get from being a sub around here, but enjoy them. So that would make sense if I were like, oh, I don't know, I want the Oracle to help me. I could do one of those. I don't think this is an Oracle scenario. I think it's clear enough what the consequences should be. So I think, there's the people that were hot on my heels trying to stop me from burning the church down. I was supposed to be functionally executed, and I kind of broke free in the middle of this. They do not want me to get away with this. I think I'm very much going to be like, they've caught up with me. I was not able to burst through the door in time, and now we're basically in a fight scenario. It's kind of like the one we were in before. So we've got, like, let's just have the 3 of them. I'm kind of cornered with 3 of these, I forget what, weavers, I believe is what we called them last time. They're members of this church that are kind of a little bit more the enforcers. Think kind of like how in Game of Thrones we have the, I forget what they call themselves, but all the people that have carved the 7-point star in their forehead. They're not as intense as that, and they're not as militaristic, but they are, they're religious people that are a little bit more ready to throw down if things happen. So yeah, we got 3 weavers. I'm nearly certain that's what we called them. Let me see. I've got a few of my notes here. I guess I don't have that there. It's fine. So we break out into this fight. I'm going to write down that we've got them here. So here we go. Put some red text along this line to keep it separate from the vows. So we've got cluster of weavers in the building. So wish I could turn that off. Frustrates me every time. Cluster of weavers in the building. They catch up with me, and they're indeed going to be. Last time we only called them troublesome, I believe. No. Get back where you were. No, I'm trying to get that tiny little dot that I have there. Whatever. I'll work on that later. We'll just know that's not the real dot. They're not dangerous. They are troublesome, which will make them a little bit easier to defeat, which is good because Coyote is not much in the way of a fighter. Yeah, it's the same number as before. It's the same everything. They'll just be troublesome. So let's start this fight. We've got a little bit of a roll here. Get to the right section of moves here. I'm looking at the moves reference PDF, so I got to kind of scroll through there. There's kind of the combat moves and the social moves and all that. Now we could do an we could do this as a full-on fight. I could also do it as a battle, but I like the idea of a fight happening in the burning building. It's nice and it's very Uncharted, where we've got just like, oh my god, the building's burning down, but we're gonna stop and fight each other for some reason. We don't need to escape. So we're going to enter the fray. All right, roll to determine who is in control. if I'm facing off against my foe, roll plus heart. If I'm moving into position against an unaware foe, or if I'm ambushed, roll wits. I don't know if I'm ambushed exactly. I think we're just facing off. Coyote was aware enough that they were coming. We had all the signs telegraphing they were going to be chasing after him. He was running from them. He's not taken enough by surprise for me to consider this an ambush. So we're going to roll plus heart and face off against them and do this correctly. So here we go. Let's see who has the control and the momentum on this. Heart is thankfully what I'm good at. There we go. Strong hit. Perfect. It's exactly what I wanted. So on a strong hit, take +2 momentum, which is great. We've now got our meter really high, far more likely to help us, which is great because, as mentioned, I'm not good in a fight, so I'm going to need all the momentum help I can get. So we take 2 momentum, and we have initiative. So, in this game, unlike, say, Dungeons & Dragons, or all sorts of other role-playing games of various kinds, who has the initiative in combat is very important. Now, initiative does not mean whose turn is it. It kind of does, but not in that very literal sense. It's not like, okay, I have initiative and I do something, then the initiative is on this person and they do something. It's not that sort of thing. Initiative in this game is a little bit more of a blob. When you have initiative, you're able to do the aggressive actions. You can indeed get up in somebody's face and just punch them and just try and strike them and do harm as effectively as possible. When you don't have initiative, you're a little bit more on your heels and you got to kind of gain it back before you can do anything effective. This is a very player-focused game. We don't ever explore, like, what they do exactly. Like, it's not about, like, okay, they have initiative, so they will strike you. It's more just, it limits what kind of moves I can make and kind of makes me have to be a little bit more defensive and more just like, oh shit, I got to resist the fact that they're going to try and hit me now. It's that sort of thing, rather than I do something and then they do something and then I do something and they do something. So anyway, having initiative is great. It is the easiest way to actually inflict damage on somebody. It's not the only way, but it is the most effective. So I don't have initiative often in these situations. Coyote's got to take advantage of it. We're already in initiative and attacking in close quarters. I think there's a chance that I might be able to... I have my moment where they're on the other side of that fire that Coyote just ran through. I think I could try and attack at range by indeed just, like, grabbing some, like... You know, this place, it's already... The fire's spreading out. There's probably all sorts of things starting to break off and, like, just assorted pieces of wood and, like, pews and stuff. Things that are cracking apart that are just on fire. I think Coyote could grab one of those and just throw the flaming thing at somebody in such a way... Like, he's trying to, like, with precision, get some, like, small object, you know, just fist size, like, some piece of wood that he could fit in his hand that's on fire to quickly scoop up and throw such that it's like goes down the guy's shirt, so it'll start catching him on fire. And that'll obviously stall the guy and give them his own problems that hold them at bay. So that's what he's going to do. He's going to use a strike with just like, I think it would be easy enough to find, some chunk of wood that he can fit in his hand. He's got to do it real quick. There are obvious ways where this could go poorly if I get not a full hit on this. So he grabs it, and we're going to roll our edge and see how well this strike does. Kablamo! Okay, we have a weak hit. Let me see what happens on that. On a weak hit, I know at the very least I'm going to lose initiative. The only way to have initiative is to keep getting strong hits. But I would inflict my harm, which would get me a good way through this fight. So it's not bad. And, oh, I guess my momentum is not quite high enough to make this a choice anyway. So that's what will happen. I have my weak hit. I lose initiative, but not before it's effective. So indeed, this little chunk goes down the guy's shirt and like catches his clothes on fire. It's at least, you know, it's not like an immediate like and whoosh, he's, you know, this flaming wreck. But you know, he's got something to contend with. It's hot against his skin. He's trying to get it out of there because it's not falling out. It's very distracting, and it's starting to burn through his clothes. But he's not like soaked in gasoline or something. So here we go. Let me fill in these 3 boxes. So because they are only troublesome, every time I deal harm to them, which is what I've just done, I've dealt harm, I fill in 3 of these boxes. the way we end this fight, what we're trying to do is fill in these boxes so much that I'm confident that if I were to roll 2d10s and not add anything to the, if I can compare them just to that number, like right now it would be 3. If I'm confident that I've done enough, I can end the fight right there. If I rolled 2d10s, they would both be lower than 3. I can end the fight right now. I would make what is called a progress move to end the fight. That is not very likely to happen, as you would imagine. I would want that meter to get higher before I do that thing. I could do it. It is not likely that I would win the fight as a result. And besides, it's going pretty well for me so far. Not that I have a lot of health or anything to spare, but it's going decently. We don't need to do that yet. But I do lose the initiative, because in doing this, sure, I distract one person, but the other two, you know, they're not on fire or anything. They're going to be right up in Coyote's face. And Coyote is going to have to escape them. I don't want to clash. I want to use my speed and agility and all of that to kind of roll out of the way as they come at me. The problem is we established the fire is kind of right there. Quickly just kind of roll back through to the other side of the fire. Yeah, we're gonna do that. He doesn't have time to like brace himself and summon his courage anymore. Like that doesn't make sense. They just hit him during that. But he's gonna quickly just kind of face danger, speed, agility, precision, get out of their way, dodge, see if he can, because they're coming at him. See if he can roll out so they just like whiff through the air as they're coming at him, trying to just grab him and stop him from doing this. So here we go. Let's make our edge roll. Hoping to indeed get a strong hit so we can take the initiative back and do something to hurt them some more. So, or we could have the opposite. Now, this is a scenario where I have to think about what I want to do, because my momentum, if I wanted to kill it all right now, which would suck, but I could use momentum to pretend that 6 doesn't happen. So mechanically, what happens is I go, hey, my momentum is 8. That's higher than 6. I could bring this all the way back down to my reset value of +1, kill basically everything I've been building up and building up and building up, to eliminate any dice that are lower, so get rid of this 6, don't get rid of the 10, turn this into a weak hit. I still wouldn't have initiative. I don't think it's worth it on this. A weak hit, maybe if I were striking them, would be more worth it, but not great. So I'm going to take my miss on face danger. It does not work. So I fail. My progress is undermined by dramatic and costly turn of events. So it's not dramatic and costly. It's just the obvious thing. I was trying to get out of the way. I'm not fast enough. The two of them kind of pincer in on me. And one of them is managing to, like, I try and dodge the one, but the other is right there and just clocks me while I'm trying to get out of the way. So I'm going to suffer harm. They're going to do 1 harm to me. And we're going to endure harm. Do that move. So I faced physical damage, so I suffer minus health equal to my foe's rank, or as appropriate to the situation. So I suffer health. As you can see, I don't have any health to lose, so if your health is 0, suffer minus momentum equal to any remaining health. So our momentum is going to go down a little bit. Bing. So my ability to end this fight is a little bit undermined by, being punched in the face. It's not the ideal way a fight goes. And it's just, I'm trying to rub it and all of that. We're going to see how well I take the hit. So roll health or iron, whichever is higher. Iron is modestly higher than health. And we'll see what happens. Now, if I can make a strong hit on this, that does count, and I will get my initiative back. I can roll with the punch so well that, it doesn't phase me, and while he's still recovering from, being off balance from the punch, I can maybe hit him right back. Let's see if I can pull that off. It's unlikely, but I might just use momentum on this if I can, if that'll turn it into a strong hit. Let's see. It would not! It is a miss that I can do nothing about, so no. So miss, I take it especially badly. My jaw is sore. I'm seeing some stars a little bit. I suffer another -1 momentum, which is not the direction I want that meter to be going. We just lost the 2 that this fight started with. If you're at 0 health, you must mark wounded or maimed if currently unmarked. Oh, shit. Oh, right. So I am already wounded. I guess I don't have to... Maimed is a bad version of wounded. It, like, doesn't go away, basically. Or I can roll on the following table. I'm going to roll on the following table. I so do not want to get maimed. I would much rather just see what happens. So we've got a D100 roll to happen here. We're going to see just randomly... This is a bad hit. I was already kind of like wobbly and uncertain. My health was... I was in and out. I was in a bad state before this strong punch happens. It goes like just right in the temple and like knocks my head back against the wall, I think. So just... It's like a bam, bam, and just like really leading towards a concussion. Let's see... Well, I was looking into... Tormented is a little bit more permanent. I was remembering we were talking about last time. I think he might be tormented, but not mechanically, because it's kind of a big deal mechanically, as I was looking into. Alright, here we go. So we rolled a 7 on the dice. Oh, shit! So, on a result of 1 through 10 on this table, the harm is mortal. Face death. So at the very beginning of the session, we started with a face death roll. Recognize it. We got out of this terrible situation with a opportunity. It went amazingly. Unfortunately, strong, just solid punch that knocks my head back against the wall. There's a blood stain behind me there. Face death. We may wind up seeing what the afterlife looks like indeed. So when you're brought to the brink of death and glimpse the world beyond, roll plus heart. Let's see, can we work this out again? We still have high momentum. I am so glad I did not burn it. Because we could roll out of this. And a strong hit on face death could still put us back in the initiative. If we just somehow roll our eyes back from the back of our head. Alright, here we go. Here's our heart roll. As the world is all fading around me and it's all turning to this smoky blackness. No, 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 no. It is a miss, and a miss that I cannot momentum my way out of. So, the world all starts going black. As you can imagine. Oh, wait, shit. No, I just remembered. Yeah, on a miss, there's no going to the afterlife and, like, finding a way to plead for your life. On a miss, it is very simple. It says, on a miss, you are dead. That is it. Yeah, there's nothing I can do momentum-wise. If I could just make it into a weak hit, we could, like, the story could go out, we could face death in our world and bargain for our life. Unfortunately, if I had only been willing to take maimed instead. Now, here's my question for all of you. We're 10 sessions into this. We've had quite a story going out. In theory, I could have avoided this entirely if I had just taken maimed instead of making the face death roll. Now, I'm okay with the idea of going, hey, I made my choice, I gambled and it didn't pay off, it screwed me over, but that was my gamble. I'm okay to just do that and say, and thus was the tale of Coyote Devereaux. It went very poorly for him most of the way through, but certainly in the end there. But, if you would prefer, Average Genius votes play by the rules. I was going to say, if you prefer, obviously the other option is we rewind this a little bit and say I just get maimed instead, and then the story continues like that. But Average Genius says, rules are rules. You made your choice. That's one vote for that. As I said, I'm plenty willing to do that and say, thus was the tale of Coyote Devereaux. Hang our hats for him. A solid punch in a burning building, and he was kind of an asshole the whole time. Well, if nothing else, I definitely got to take a hearty drink for him from my moonshine bottle. 'Cause, oof, Coyote, I should have just let you get maimed. Should have just gone with it. It was such a small chance. He rolled so poorly. Maimed with another cost on top of it. Well, I don't know what that cost could be. Like, there's only so many things I can do mechanically. Maimed is definitely already getting into some of the worst stuff that can happen to you. But Average Genius says he gets fucked over by the rules. I get fucked over by the rules. And hey, you know, it's fair. I made my choice. I made it with the recognition that when you roll on that table, you're taking more of a gamble. There's good odds that it goes much better for you, and you don't... Oh, how did this get shifted down? There we go. There's good odds that it goes decently. Not in this case. So, yeah. I guess we're going to go along with rules are rules. He certainly gets maimed in the process of this, but just knocks his head against it, cracks open the back of his head, slumps down. I think they succeed at putting out the fire, or at least keeping it from completely burning down the church. I think it's spread enough that like the church will very much never quite be the same. There's some renovations that are going to have to happen, but it's not completely burned down. Let's go back into this view. So yeah, let's have some thoughts. Like let's just discuss the way this game has gone. Yeah, well, you'll be able to catch up anyway. Now that'll be quite the ability to catch up. So this has been Ironsworn Western Frontier. The dangers of only having one character is if somebody dies, then somebody dies. And that we're kind of done with that. You need a fear from the... It was nice having that kind of driving fear. That was kind of cool. Yeah, let's kind of wrap over what was cool about this system and all of that. What we might do in the future, because I want to keep having RPG streams. I do really like this game, but if I'm being completely honest, as a stream, and I thought we've had a really cool story out of this, it's a little bit of a shame that it kind of like... We sort of very much like kind of build up and all this cool stuff's happening, and then just because of my choice, and done. Like very suddenly, just you're dead, you're decked, and then out. That was a shame, but that's not the fault of the system. That's the fault of I made that choice with that gamble, and it happened. But what I was getting at was, much as I've had a really fun time with this and would love to explore it more in the future, it's a difficult, like it is. As a game to stream for all of you, it asks a lot of me, in some respects, and doesn't in another. What's cool about it is I have to do no prep whatsoever. I usually spend at most 5 or maybe 10 minutes thinking about some of the most relevant beginning questions of how we start the session, and then nothing else. I consult my notes throughout. It very much handholds me, but... I'd love to do an RPG stream where I'm not the only voice talking. It's a really fun game for me to play, and it's been entertaining to do for you, but it's a challenge, you know? It's a lot easier for me to get in character, and, like, we've seen the struggle I've had sometimes of just, like, not just talking on a, like, narrative level, but really getting down into the performance level and being like, hey, let's play out these characters a little bit. Oh, I am going to do an epilogue, though. We're not going to roll the dice anymore, but... we are going to send Coyote to death, and we're going to see what that looks like. We'll at least do that to kind of wrap things up with a little bit more of a bow. So actually, yeah, hold on. Before we do the after talk, let's get back into that. So I'm still going to do it from this view because we're not going to need mechanics anymore. Coyote's mechanics days are done. I don't want to put in all this thought about what he's gonna when he faces death, what that's going to look like without actually facing it. So Coyote, as we mentioned, the world goes black. There's that kind of... everything starts fading away. First, it's the fade away of the life and sensation around him. Like, all of the visual things fade away. And seeing, like, the world starts going away. And then it's just other sensations of, like, even... the kind of... you know how there are other senses, like, the sense that you have a body. And that it's, like... you have a place in physical space. Like, things like that start fading away. And a little bit of the idea of having an attachment to life. And, like, I'm sure if your heart stopped beating, even though you don't notice it, it would be, like, it's kind of like there's this moment where it's not that he was noticing every beat of his heart, but he notices it goes away and just stops being a part of him. And that there stops being this sort of functions of the body. That's just not part of his existence anymore. But then there's a fade in. And it's not a very bright fade in. It's a very dusky, desaturated sort of fade in. Where he sees in the distance ahead of him, in this kind of inky blackness of what's around him, he sees fade in this set of saloon doors. Hey, it's Pigeon. Thank you for the host. For people who have just come in, you should know this game took a turn on this one. So we're on session 10, and the one and only character of this game has just died. So we're doing a little bit of a wrap-up. We're doing the epilogue of what death looks like for this character. He has just entered the underworld. We're in this kind of magical Wild West situation. And so we're seeing, yes, what does death look like for him as our wrap-up? Because death kind of came pretty suddenly.
Thank
wow.
you so much.
Awseeker, thanks for the follow. And then we're going to do a little bit of an after talk of like what kind of game we want to do next. Because it may or may not be more Ironsworn. It's been a really cool game though. Highly encouraged. It's a freely available one. Go to ironswornrpg.com if you want to know more about how this game works, because we're not embracing the mechanics anymore. This is all narrative. So fading in ahead of him, we see supported by nothing. There aren't even posts, but there's just saloon doors. And they're wispy and weird. They don't have hard edges to them. They seem all like vaguely amorphous along the edges. And they're kind of like this smoky saloon door. And short of anything else to do, he doesn't have that sensation of having a body anymore. So it's not like he actively takes steps towards them so much as it's almost like the world just starts coming at him. Like there was a thought like he wanted to experience and know what was on the other side. But it's happening to him now. The world just reacts to his existence. And like as his kind of perception and point of view approaches it, the doors start opening up and there's a faint light that goes inside, that comes on inside. It's almost like as if this whole place is being lit by just this one candle. But you can see there's a being there. It is like it's this empty, dusty bar. There's all this dust kind of going through the air. Like, look at all this background around this video player. Imagine the whole place basically looks like that. Maybe not quite that thick, but almost. There's just this swirling, dusty smoke all around, but through it, he can make out there's this one guy sitting at the bar, and without even turning, and he's got his cowboy hat on that'll fit a little bit better without headphones. Sitting at the bar, just sleeves rolled up, back turned, just kind of slides over a glass of whiskey to the spot next to him, and then like takes his hand away, and he doesn't even gesture. He slides it into place, and then again, Coyote's perspective sort of shifts in and takes him to that place. And when he sits on the bar stool, when his perspective is there, a little bit of that body sensation comes back. It's like he's gone from nothingness back to having like a ghostly form. And in fact, if he looks down, he can see everything about himself is hollow now. He can see through to the other side, because he notices this when he grabs the glass. And again, I'm going to take another drink on his behalf, because I want more moonshine. So he picks up the glass, and he can see right straight through his hand this kind of pale, it's not a blue glow, it's just a completely like desaturated black and white, and it's almost like, imagine if you were a drawing that instead of being fully shaded in, it's like there's ink splotches throughout, where it's like almost like a liver spot. Like some sections have this kind of pale blackness that you can mostly see through, or that you can kind of see through but not quite, and then other sections are a lot more hollow and directly clear, and the blackness is kind of just like swirling and moving about and just going through his limbs, as he like just barely has a form. And he takes this drink, and there's a man sitting next to him who's initially face a little bit covered in shadow, but tips his hat up. His hat tips up a little bit as he looks over to him, and he says, Coyote Devereaux, as I neither live nor breathe. You know, I figured it was only a matter of time before I saw you sitting in that stool right there. Things took a turn, didn't they? Yeah, they, yeah, and he swigs the drink. Who, am I where I think I am? Probably. Most people get the idea right now. And when he says that, there's a little bit of an illumination that happens in the side of the room. There's another door that like kind of cuts through the smoke more than it did before. We couldn't see it, but there's this doorway that has like a faint kind of smoked over glass porthole in it, and we can see this glow starting to cut through more. And once we see that, we can hear this kind of revelry from the other side and the like tinkling of kind of like honky-tonk music. There's some kind of, it's like a cabaret show, it sounds like, that we can faintly hear coming from the other side. And once we hear it, we can catch the whiffs of kind of the like tobacco smoke from there, and the stench of kind of people enjoying a beer. All these like faint sensations come through from that area. There's a vague warmth, and but it's all the way over on the side. Coyote, it's my job to break the news to the people who come here, but more or less sounds like you've already got the gist of it. Hey, welcome, Fromage. Hold on. I'm going to let your theme play because it's going to undercut this a little bit. Here we go. Welcome to the stream. And then Dr. Wily is there! No. Welcome to the stream. Again, my ordinary stream is a Sunday night cello request stream. This is me on the cello you're hearing right now, so that'll happen tomorrow night. No, totally fine, totally fine. It's not your fault that our character died and is in the underworld right now. And is like a full stop dead, there's no coming back. So we're doing a little bit of an epilogue. It's my job to break the ice about the whole situation. Help bring you to peace with it. Hence the drink. And he starts just like, he like, when he says hence the drink, we like look over and see the glass is already filled again. Yeah, the already filled with whiskey again. Yeah, it can be pretty hard for a lot of people to take. We find ourselves so attached to what once was, but it's important you accept that that's over now. You've had your time, and you're making room for other people to have theirs. So, what happens now? And Coyote's definitely like, there's a, as one would expect, there's a kind of stir in his voice. He's afraid. What happens now? As he like tremblingly tries to pick up the glass again, but it like can't quite find his hands around it and gives up on trying. Well, why don't you finish that glass there? Who are you? You're some kind of, you greet people? It's what I am now. There was a time where I was a little bit more like you. I had my time, and in my time I tried to be friendly with all the people I could. I kind of rubbed off on us. The people that we are in life, they leave an impression on who we are when life is no more. Well, this is my fate. It's not the worst one, not the best one. Kind of prefer to be in there, and his head gestures over towards the towards the area that we've seen with there's the kind of porthole, and the glow emanates a little bit more brightly. It'd be nice to be in there, but this ain't all half bad. Well, what's in there? Well, some people get to live out their days over in that room. Kind of forget all the fate and forget everything about how much they want to go back and keep on living. It's a little bit of a non-stop party. Sounds like a fun time. And every once in a while, if they want to take a break and get the fresh air, some of them come out in here. They keep me company from time to time, but for the most part, they stay in that room. Of course, price of admission's a little bit steep to get into that party, but that's something else entirely. I'm not going to that party, am I? Finish your drink, Coyote. Finish your drink. And he grabs it again and gulps it down. Coyote, you made a lot of decisions in your life. And I'm not here to judge you for them or say what you did was right or wrong. There's going to be other people who are going to do that for me. I'm just here to get you ready for it. Well, let's just say you'd know if you were going in there, and if you don't know, you're not going in there. There is another place. And there's this other door that comes over, and it's a very similar one. It's another door that we see starting to cut through the smoke. But this one, rather than having this nice light emanating through it, it's like frosted over. It's got all these like fractured ice crystals all over it. It doesn't seem like it's cold exactly, and like it's not like there's frost and stuff coming off it and like that kind of condensation, but like it's a different place and does not look nearly as inviting. There's another door. And well, some people go in that one. And hey, I don't want to raise your hope, but I've seen people walk in that door and walk out. Any of the people I've seen go in that fun door, they don't leave. They stick around. They're good with what they got. You go in the cold door, what's on the other side might be a little bit more inviting. Depends on you, I guess, what you're willing to do. I'll be honest though, Coyote, the faces behind that door, they're not always that friendly. They're not as open to answering questions. If there's anything that you want to know, I've heard a thing or two from my spot here. People come through, they tell me about what's happening. You know, your dad came through here not all that long ago. Yeah? Where is he? Let's just say I don't expect you're going to wind up seeing him. I wouldn't expect to anyway. He's got his own peace to find. But he mentioned, when he came through here, he mentioned your name and you're a man of ambition. I've heard that from a lot of people. Some people come through here, they don't leave a big crater in the world. You've left your mark. Hey, some people, that's all they're really looking for, right? I like to think I made mine. How did you make your mark? What did you do? You know, the more the years go by, or however long it's been, the harder it is to really remember the specifics. But you spent your time making the vows, right? heard you wanted to be an Ironsworn. That's... Rumors came through here that said that. And when people swear on iron, it tends to make its way through here. Let's just say I had a life of my own in that direction. I hope that made an impact. Sure did try to. You done with that drink? Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm done with it. Look, man, is there a... Talking to the wrong guy. If there's a way to not walk through one of those doors, I'm not the man who can do it for you. Turn around. You see anything else out there? And he turns around, and the saloon, even the saloon doors that he once walked through, are no longer there. It's all just like the room itself kind of... It's like there's a feathering effect on it, and eventually it just stops being room and goes back into just... It's just nothingness out there for eternity. The only way is forward, Coyote. And hey, I'm more than happy to sit with you and chat for as long as it takes. But one way or another, eventually you walk through the door. And eventually, I'm out of whiskey. So the question I have for you is, do you have to be pushed through the door, or are you ready to walk through on your own? I don't want to die. It's already happened. I don't have to worry about that. Hey, good news. You'll never have to die ever again. Silver lining. But you are walking through that door. Please. There has to be a Coyote. It's not the way this works. You made your choices in life. You got yourself here. I already told you. Maybe what's on the other side of that door will have a deal for you, but it's not coming from here. I'm just a greeter. Now get off the stool and walk through the door. You're ready. Whether you want to or not. And the stool that was under him disappears, and the guy disappears, and the bar disappears, and all that's left is not even both doors, it's just the one door. It's frosted over. And it's like Coyote has the sensation of trying to actively back away, but no matter what he tries, everything he tries to do to move away from it doesn't work. There's like this repulsion energy that's keeping him from getting farther from the door. And at first it's just that. And it's just there's something keeping him from moving backwards. But then slowly there's things that start pushing him closer and closer to it, despite everything he wants to do. And he's just like, tears are going down his face. I don't want to see what's on the other side. I mean, he's not literally saying anything, but he's, no. And eventually the doorway opens up. Actually, I don't think even the door opens up. I think it's just the icy porthole in the door kind of expands and gets larger and larger, and it's like his form goes through that hole. And he winds up on the other side, and it's like he's inside the entertainment area of a saloon. It's all just like, it seems like what you might find on the other side of that glowing door, except there's nobody here. It's all empty, it's all just dust and cobwebs and a vague sense of cold. There's a stage where people might perform with, red velvet curtains and everything, where there's just nobody there. It's just floorboards that if you stepped on them would be insanely creaky. Everything's just all old, rotting wood, and just an environment that seems like it used to be inviting, but there's just nothing now. And just all sorts of round tables with empty chairs at empty tables. He's all alone in here. He's looking around. Hello? Hello? And you hear this deep, just heavy footfalls happening from beyond that are like shaking the room a little bit with each step. And eventually, just this long there's a doorway out of here in the back of the room. Not the doorway he came through, but there's kind of like, came through a doorway. It's opposite of the stage. There's this doorway that's, it now occurs to him, is bigger than it seems. It's this big arched doorway. And it's like, it looked normal size, but now it's occurring to him, no, it's very far away. And this shadow is visible through the doorway. And it is a long, long shadow. And then eventually, the form that's making it comes into this doorway. And it is this enormous figure, just covered in this all just black, sort of tattered clothing that goes down. It's not robes. It's not like, doesn't look like death as a classical depiction of him. But it's just all covered in like these long sleeves and just tattered black clothes that are all frayed at the edges. But he stands about like 18 feet tall. He's just this enormous figure. Comes lumbering into the room and stands up behind Coyote, who is just craning his neck up to see this figure. You've come for me, Coyote. It's your time. And like he wants to say something, but he just breaks down into tears at that moment. He can't find it in himself to have any courage to do anything but just cry. And the figure sort of chuckles to himself. One of those. Beg for me, Coyote. Beg for your life. I want to hear those sweet, sweet sounds. Please. I don't want to be here. Harder. Beg for me. You don't understand. I had so much left to do. Yes, more. The people that I meant. I could do a lot in this world. I could do so much. And then he like snaps his fingers, and on the stage in front of him, it's all of the children from what was it, Copper's Ring, I believe we established long ago. Yes, Copper's Ring. All the children from that area, we had in a backstory, it turned out that Coyote once accidentally, through selling some snake oil that he did not know was more problematic than he was claiming, he accidentally poisoned a bunch of school children. And all of their ghostly forms start rising up from the stage. As they all look horrible, and their faces just like half melted and just tortured expressions. They clearly suffered, and they're all just wailing at him. They've indistinctly, and Coyote trying to shield himself from just no. I didn't mean to. I didn't. And then like he snaps his fingers again, and there is the family when he was on the road with Tan, the Huck family. They're all just like sobbing there on the ground. For a spirit of the patriarch of that family that Coyote wound up accidentally, having his companion kill along the way. Coyote's at least responsible for his death. That comes up. His father comes up. He snaps his finger one more time, and Filch comes up from the floor. And similarly, just in this haggard, death, like he's been down here for just hundreds of years, just falling apart look, pleads with Coyote and goes, "Why, you failed me. You ran." And we're gonna fade to black on all of that as the figure of death puts this massive, massive paw in a mock consolation on Coyote's shoulder. and then takes his other hand, and he pulls out this enormous revolver. This thing, every barrel of it is about the size of Coyote's head. This thing is enormous. Pulls it out of this holster along his side and starts idly spinning it in his hand, and then like stopping it and just zzz, click, zzz, click. Of course, instead of a high pitched zzz, it's a far more just chunk, 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 cluck. As the sense of doom comes, and he levels it against Coyote's head and cocks back the hammer, and then we cut to black. So, yeah, that will be the end of the story of Coyote Devereaux. It did not end very well for him. But we're going to continue this epilogue to the stream anyway. That's the epilogue of our story. And so I wanted to talk about this system again. We started that, but then I realized I should do an epilogue to the story. So for those of you unfamiliar, Ironsworn RPG... Ironsworn is not typically a Western RPG. It is more... supposed to be kind of Viking low fantasy sort of stuff. Really cool game, but is very adaptable to other settings. Basically anything where you have sort of a frontier sort of area, like kind of wild, untamed lands where you can go from community to community solving problems in just like a harsh environment. It's a great system for that. So anyway, I realized, hey, harsh, wild expanses, the Wild West seems like a perfect fit. And so far, I've found this game really does fit very well for that. I've had to adapt basically nothing to it. It just works really well. So anyway, it's a game called Ironsworn. Really cool. Fully available for free. But as I was talking about before we did the epilogue, I want to go over what's next for this stream. Because I want to continue doing RPGs on Saturday. I love playing RPGs. I was GMing a game of Burning Wheel earlier today, which was so much fun, and I would love to just go on and on about that, and how that game has taken some wild, interesting turns. And I'd love to do a game of Burning Wheel on here. I love Burning Wheel. It's a little bit harder to get a group for, though. It's a tricky game. But importantly, I was mentioning before, I kind of want to move in the direction of doing an RPG with other people. This is a very fun game, but it is very taxing to have to not only come up with all the narrative as it's happening, but play my main character and all the people he's interacting with. I'm way better at speaking in character and coming up with interesting, cool things to say when I'm playing off of somebody else. It's really hard to play both sides of dialogue and do it in an interesting way and not just on the narrative level. I think we did an okay job overall at making an interesting story out of this, but did not always have compelling scenes for that reason, because it's easier to have somebody else doing half of a conversation than to do every side of it. And so much as I want to go back and explore more Ironsworn at some point, and we very well might, my leaning at the moment, unless people really want me to go, I'm probably going to have a poll on my Twitter and Discord to this effect. I kind of want to do something else. Something where I could have a group. I want to GM something, and I want to gather up some people that to play with me. I don't know what system it would be yet, but I have some questions for you guys as viewers. And I know some of you are here for the first time, and some of you have been in and out and all of that, but I'm interested in your input regardless of how many times you've been here. So this is a game on a very narrative end of the spectrum. Now, I don't fully subscribe to the gamist, narrativist, simulationist paradigm. I think there's some flaws with it, but as a lot of people do. But it would be easy to recognize that there's a lot of focus on narrative in this game. It's all about how does the narrative shape itself. I like those games a lot, but they're more on the rules light end of the spectrum, and some people like that, some don't. So just people who are here, I'm interested. What kind of games do you like? Do you like things that have more of a crunch than this? This has, as we noted, a lot of moments where there's a lot of just like, what do we want to use on this? How do I want to manipulate this to my situation? Because the rules have enough wiggle room to them to kind of use what you want to do. We found, Dread. Dread is interesting. I have specific issues with Dread, and for one thing, I do want to do more of a campaign, which Dread is obviously not really designed to do. For those of you who don't know, Dread is a game where you play out kind of a survival horror situation, and what you do to do it is you have a Jenga tower. And every time you're doing things that are interesting, like that are uncertain, you're pulling blocks from the tower. And eventually, as Jenga happens, the tower will fall and characters will die. And it's a very intense game. I have specific issues with it though. I've run it before. I don't always have the easiest time running it simply because it is difficult for me to kind of weigh out the. So basically, two things can happen in Dread. Either you pull out a brick and you're successful and like you do what you want to do, and the tension builds because you get more and more likely to have the tower fall, or the tower falls and your character is out of the action. There's no real way that reasonably comes up in gameplay for you to fail. It's all just you succeed, you succeed, you succeed, you do risky things, you succeed, you succeed, you succeed, somebody dies. And it's not my favorite narrative arc. I've enjoyed the hell out of Dread. Don't get me wrong. It can be some fun times, but it basically turns into we're just playing a game of Jenga, and there happens to be a story that we're kind of stapling onto it. It's a cool game. For a horror game, I have a different kind of very interesting one that is a favorite of mine, but it's very much meant for one-shots, so would also not be a great one. I guess that's my other question. So people around here, obviously I'm trying to do a continued RPG stream around and really enjoy that. Do you like things to be longer campaigns? Like, this is a kind of a short campaign. It was only 10 sessions. Or do you like the idea of just, it's a new game every time. We're just doing one-shots of things. Just quick stories, we resolve them. Things are a little bit more fast and furious, and just whatever happens, happens, and we move on to the next thing. Are you more interested in seeing one-shots like Dread or this other game I'm talking about called 10 Candles, which is amazing, but is very much a one-shot game? You like that? It's very forgiving. It's true, yeah. Yeah. One of the things I've had a problem with the campaign, it's not an Ironsworn specific thing, but just a campaign. If people aren't here for all of the sessions, I think it's harder to. It's obviously harder to step in midway and be like, anybody who comes in, on session 10 is, for obvious reasons, going to be like, hey, what's going on? And the longer and longer we get into the campaign, the harder and harder that is to really answer effectively. Which, that's certainly the benefit of one-shots. But the benefit of campaigns is the story gets to evolve more and we get to see a lot more character change, which can be its own kind of goal. So like games that can go either way, something else with a long goal, but you get your ass kicked quick. Okay. Hyper RPG would run some hard. Yeah, 10 Candles is great. So to go into a little bit more on that, background, I'm not the most familiar with every single RPG out there, but most of the reading I do, I love just reading RPG handbooks. Just even if I never play them, I just like reading how systems work. I love it. For background, I just read Apocalypse World, finally, and I'm in the process of reading Blades in the Dark, which is a really cool game that I would certainly consider streaming, because I've never played it before. I've watched it. Let me pitch it to you real quick, see if people might be interested in this. So Blades in the Dark is another Powered by the Apocalypse game, so it's going to be kind of in this vein. I gestured to a thing that doesn't exist anymore. Going to be in this vein where things are a little bit rules light and freeform. It's all about triggering moves still, like how do I move the narrative in the direction I want it. But in this case, it's about a band of ne'er-do-wells. So the core setting takes place in basically, imagine the world of Thief or Dishonored. Something like that, where you got this just like dark London. It's all gaslights and like the sun is never out. In this game, literally, it's always dark. It's like Gotham City in that regard. It's always nighttime here because of some weird shit that happened. You're locked in this kind of dystopian London where there's a lot of like Victorian era sort of thievery and just gangs of stuff going on. So in Blades in the Dark, you could play a gang of you could be all about like gang of thieves doing stuff. You could be about like drug peddlers. There's all these nefarious types of stuff you could do. Your gang is kind of its own character. You get more powerful as a gang as it goes on. Your individual characters kind of develop as well, like what their roles are in that gang. And you plan heists and you execute them. Or you scores, I believe, is the parlance of the game. If I had to vote, it would be the one I'd be most interested in doing next. I think it is a relatively forgiving game towards like being a first time for people. So just as it does, that sound like the sort of thing people might be interested in. So yeah, you pull off scores. What's interesting about this game, and again, I'm still reading the rules, so I'm not the best at pitching it yet, but I've watched a little bit of it in play. It's unlike some games where it's all about like plan, pull off the score, and try and pull it off as flawlessly as possible. Blades in the Dark does it a little bit differently, where the idea is that we assume that you are a band of competent criminals. You know how to if you're thieves, you know how to plan the jewel heist or whatever. So we don't need you as players to try and think through every angle ahead of time. Instead, we come up with a very rudimentary framework for this plan, and we get right into the action. We do an engagement roll, we see how it's starting, and then, if you run into a situation along the way, you can do this thing where you trigger flashbacks, where you basically pretend that you made a preparation that we didn't on screen already explore. You could be like, yes, but we planned for this contingency, and I haven't gotten to this part in the book yet, so I don't know mechanically exactly how it works. I think it has something to do with stress or something like that, but depending on what you're doing, you can be like, but I knew this might come up, so I already paid off that guard, or whatever, or I hid a thing of dynamite in this crate right here. It's a very different take on heist, where it allows you to cut into the action way quicker, and then kind of, after the fact, explore how did you pull it off completely. It's more like watching an Ocean's 11 movie, where it's like, we don't have all the details beforehand, we have them vaguely talk about what they're going to do, and then, leverage. I haven't heard about that. Well, tell us about it, Midnight. Because now that we're in kind of our just free-form talking hour thing. But yeah, you talk about the heist in broad strokes, and then you do it. And then we see on screen, what did they actually plan? And it's kind of cool. And then things go wrong. It is still a Powered by the Apocalypse game, so it's all about just like, what costs do you have to pay to get what you want? It's a lot of those questions. Another cool thing that happens in this game that I really like is what's called the Devil's Bargain. So one of the ways you can try and get more dice and be more successful is, mechanically in this game, there's a lot of times where you ask the GM, like, hey, can I get a Devil's Bargain out of this? Where the GM goes, okay, you want some extra dice? You want some better odds of success? Okay. You do the thing, but you have to accept this other thing is going to happen. I'm trying to give you a good example without specifics right now, because I haven't played the game yet. She'll let you into this place, that's enough to get into the bar, but she's gonna tell everybody later. She's gonna gossip about the fact that you were here to everybody else. It's that sort of thing. It's the success. You basically accept the success at a cost from the get-go, but make you more likely to actually succeed. Anyway, Leverage is a TV show or a group of criminals play Robin Hood, steal back from the... Okay. Oh god, they had... Cool. That's interesting. Where did... What network did it air on? That sounds interesting. It's just kind of like a TV show format. But yeah, so it winds up being a lot about kind of the characters and who these bad people are and what's important to them as they progress through the underworld. There's a lot of rival gangs all throughout the city, so there's a lot of just competing for turf and seeing how this, hotbed pressure cooker of this pseudo London reacts to people fighting with each other for territory and trying to get along in this underworld. Oh, it's on TNT. Okay, interesting. Okay. So I'll certainly consider Blades in the Dark. As I mentioned, I'm going to have a poll on my Twitter and Discord. We're going to have a straw poll to kind of get some ideas of where to push this forward. I will admit, it is unlikely that I will be able to stream this next week, because I won't be ready with another RPG all the way. Maybe I'll have some kind of one-shot. I can't commit to anything yet, just because I didn't plan on having an entirely new game all ready to go. Yeah. So I'll have to see if I can maybe do something really rules light for next time, but don't plan on there being another Saturday stream. Just as we figure out what our next session is going to be, there might be a little bit of a hiatus before we come back. I'm going to try and keep it as small of a time as possible. But yeah, my main goal is I do want to do something with a group. It's just it'll make things a lot easier on me, and I think we'll be able to explore things a lot more in character, which will be fun. And let's see, what else can we go over? I do someday really want to do Burning Wheel. I don't think I'm ready for it yet. I want to have a chance to vet a little bit more of like what group of people would be doing stuff with me on air. Because I don't know, I'm a little bit protective of my on-stream content, so that was one of the nice things about doing this all by myself is I can 100% vouch for me and being in support of things that I would do. But I gotta find people that A, have the schedule to do this, B, have the interest to do it, and C, it's a shitty thing to say, but you need good performers. You need people that not only have the enthusiasm to play the game, but can do it in a way that's entertaining and are not going to be all that disruptive, but are skilled enough at roleplay. I gotta find those people, and I'm probably gonna have a little bit of an open call for it coming out, because among my friends, I have some really good friends out there that are quite the role players. I don't know if that's necessarily the group or not, partially just because of schedule. FMP, for example, I'd love to get him on air. I don't know that I don't think he could commit to a regular thing, though. I think he could do a one-shot. He's even talked to me about his interest in doing it. I think he could do a one-shot here and there, but to sign him on for a campaign would be unlikely. Just because he can't count on being available like every Saturday at this time. I'm gonna find some people. I think I'm gonna probably reach out to some of my other music streamers. I know I've got other music streamers that are also interested in RPGs. Probably gonna reach out to them and see if we can get a thing going if they have the interest. The one thing I can guarantee you it won't be is I'm not gonna do Dungeons and Dragons. I'm not shitting on the game or anything, but it's not a game I'm interested in running. It's not the kind of game I could run as well as these more narrative types of things. It does something very different than what I would do best, and I do want to run the game. So it's not going to be D&D or Pathfinder or any game that's like very similar to that. It's not going to be 13th Age. It's not going to be those sorts of things. But yeah, what my expectation is, I'm going to need more time to read through Blades in the Dark. That might take me a couple of weeks to really get a handle on. In that time, I'm going to be trying to find new people that might be interested in an ensemble piece as a theoretically ongoing thing, but not necessarily. Just sign on for a short campaign. And then potentially depending on how long that takes, potentially do some one-shots along the way. I should announce, though, let me look up the time for it. I'm going to be mentioning this tomorrow during the Sunday stream as well, but I've been in talks with Jedi Amanda, who is another music streamer. She also happens to be a talented voice actor. And we have been in talks about what could be a fun stream that's going to happen on Saturday, February 9th. So not this coming Saturday, but the Saturday after that. I thought it would be a lot of fun. What we're going to do is... Oh, this will help give me more time to prep for a new RPG. We're talking about Jedi Amanda. Another music streamer, voice actor. We are going to... I haven't chosen the script yet. I'm probably going to... I might field suggestions as well for that, but we're going to find a script or a fanfic or something. Something that people have likely never read before. I'm going to find a script, and then together with Jedi Amanda and FMP, Jedi Amanda and I are going to do the voices of the characters. FMP is going to read all the stage directions and narration and stuff like that. So we are going to live perform somebody's like fan fiction or something, or just like somebody's script that nobody's ever read before. Not taking it all that seriously is the idea. I haven't chosen the script yet. I still need to do that. That's one of the things I gotta do this coming week. We're still working out the exact details, but that is going to be 2 weeks from now during this time slot. So, actually, I need a time slot uncertain. I will have more information for you shortly. like possibly tomorrow. If not, then I'll be putting it on my Discord or Twitter in the intervening time. But it might be this time slot, 8 to 10 p.m. Pacific time. It very well might be earlier than that, because I know Jedi Amanda's on the East Coast, so I might try and angle for a little bit earlier in the day, more like starting at 5 p.m. my time, so that it's only 8 her time. I still need to talk with her about when we're doing it specifically, but we have a date, 2 Saturdays from now. It should be a lot of fun. I hope it is anyway, and depending on how that goes, it may be something we do more in the future. So we'll have that, and then yeah, I'll look over some other RPGs. I guess the only other question is, RPGs is a thing. I like to think I do a decent job making them interesting, but I guess it's a shitty question to ask. I can't be like, do you guys think I do? Because obviously that's a very loaded question to ask people. Even if they thought so, it's not easy for people to be like, no, I'd rather you do something else. So forget that question. It's a bad question. I'm just going to continue to do them and hope that they are fun along the way. But yeah, I don't know, kind of running out of steam. I know we're not quite at our time, but not really all that much more to talk about. I got some stuff to wrap up around here and preparations. Yeah, exactly. Am I bad at this? It's a bad question. Nobody can really give you an effective answer to that. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm going to wrap things up around here, do some more preparations for tomorrow. There, as usual, is going to be a cello stream, 5 to 9 p.m. Pacific time tomorrow night. Cello requests, fun stuff. Probably have an after party of quite possibly a new game I just picked up. I do want to play it, certainly. Any of you who are familiar with Frostpunk, I really wanted to take a look at that game. It might be my after party game tomorrow. I haven't loaded it up yet, but it's basically you try and play this community surviving in the apocalypse, in this like hellish ice apocalypse, trying to keep them warm and dealing with what kind of society you're going to be, and it's kind of cool. I think people very well might be able to help me make decisions along the way. But if nothing else, there will be the cello times. That'll happen tomorrow, and did not plan on ending Ironsworn already. I thought we'd get to resolve a few more things, but if you weren't here for it, I made a risky decision and it wound up not paying off. The odds weren't strong that it would kill my character, but they were always there, and that's what happened. So one last time, I'm always a big proponent of people checking out this game themselves. It is 100% freely available. I know you haven't seen the game in action for quite some time, so people might even be forgetting, how does the Ironsworn? But ironswornrpg.com, it is a fantastic game. It is available as pay what you want. I really need to go back and actually pay for this, because we've had a lot of fun on here, and I want to support Sean Tompkin. If you really like... Oh, by the way, I'm so flattered. So, by the way, last session, I had these all on YouTube, of course, and we had the cliffhanger of like, oh shit, we had a huge complication. What am I going to do? Is Coyote going to burn to death? What are we going to do about this? What's a reasonable result of this? And I had some questions on that. So I posted on the Ironsworn subreddit, and I was like, hey, what do people think? Like, does this seem like a reasonable complication? Does this seem fitting? And I was so incredibly like humbled and flattered by it. Sean himself, the creator of this game, who's pretty active on that subreddit, is the only person who responded. He had already seen that latest video, so implicitly he's apparently been keeping up with this campaign, and now I'm kind of I recognize he's quite possibly might be listening to this as well. So hi, Sean. I'm so flattered that you have any amount of interest enough in this game and continued interest to have actually kept up and watched through my recent sessions of it. I've had a lot of fun with your creation. Very much plan on purchasing a hard copy, if for no other reason to actually support you, because it's a really cool game, and I think you've done an excellent job. And I like the various kind of modular extra features that you've been putting on your subreddit. It's cool. So yeah, check out his website. Send some money his way if you really like it. Tweet at him. Do all sorts of stuff. But for now, I gotta go. And I will see you later for quite possibly Blades in the Dark in a few weeks. We're going to find something to do. But yeah, it is very likely to be at least 3 weeks from now, just considering that next week I'm not going to be ready. The week after that, we're going to have that voiceover stream. And then hopefully the week after that, I'll be ready with something. We'll see. But I will see some of y'all cats tomorrow and some of y'all other cats some other time. Good night, everybody, and thing.